obviously going to edit. Okay. So perhaps we can just start, if I can hear from both of you, Bill and Lisa, about when looking back and reflecting an early emphasis childhood, I imagine, what sort of started to draw you towards the areas you ultimately went into as adults? Art for you, Lisa, science for you, Bill. Is there pivotal moments you can remember where you really felt your attention, your interest, your spirit being grabbed by something that happened either out there in nature or perhaps in the classroom too, or within the family?
Yeah. For me, it wasn't so much in the classroom at school. It was more my general experiences in nature. I grew up in the eastern suburbs of Sydney on the beach, and I used to spend a lot of time at the beach surfing and eventually snorkeling. So I was very comfortable and familiar with the ocean. And then I had one time when I stuck my head underwater snorkeling, and it was like opening a total new world for me. And I still have a very strong sense of that opening for me now, even now, and I was probably 12 years old, maybe even younger at that stage, and no one taught me, I just did it myself, put these things on, stuck my head under there and breathe through, because normally when someone does that for the first time, I don't know if you've experienced this, if you put a diving mask on and a snorkel and put your head under the water, there's a reflex to go, and I just breathed through it and was totally amazed by what I could see, and it was nothing special. It was just, you know, around the rocks and the water at Bronte, but I was just totally gobsmacked by it. And also at the same time, there was some documentaries on TV, early Jacques Cousteau, underwater documentaries about his explorations, and that really captured my imagination as well.
What sort of age are we talking?
12, 13.
Okay.
You know, the whole opportunity to explore, for me, it's been a combination of wanting to be underwater and mixed with exploration. That's always been a big part of it for me.
So when you stuck your head underwater and you realised there was another whole world under there that you could be looking into and diving into, it was a physical thing too, the sense that you could actually enter into it?
Yes. Yeah, and your breathing changes, you lose sense of weight, so there is that big physical element to it as well.
So it's pretty embodied.
Yes, completely. Completely. And from then on, at the same time I was always interested in animals, biology, but I didn't really get motivated by biology at high school. Science for me at high school was almost a turn-off. It was, but I still had this, you know, but I had this more self-motivation and drive that I think was stronger than the school experience.
Okay, so you could hold that vision of wanting to work there in some way, beyond the turn-off of science.
That's right. And as soon as I started university, I could see, well, this is much better than it ever was at school.
Very clear calling at a very...
I
think 12, 13 at that kind of age where you're so much on the brink of leaving childhood and going into adulthood. Yeah,
and if I think back even further than that, when as a younger child, all our family holidays were to the sea somewhere. They're always beach or fishing type holidays. So I grew up feeling very comfortable in the water and on the water and in boats, and so it was a very comfortable environment for me to be in.
You're a sea person, so
yes.
Yeah, it made sense to stay there.
Yeah, it did. Yeah.
Interesting hearing that.
Yeah.
I can already see parallels in my story.
Yeah. So tell us about your one.
Well, my earliest memories, my earliest memories, full stop, of growing up on an airport in Christchurch, in a sort of like a housing commission house. My father worked as a technician on the airport, setting up their first radio after the war, telecommunications and stuff. And I just played on the airport with the fire hoses, and I was very aware of the vastness of the world. And I was little. This was under 5. I was under 5 years, but I have vivid memories of digging a hole with my friend up the road, because we knew if we digged far enough we'd reach England or somewhere. That's what we were told. So I had this vision of being on a planet from a very early age, and there were planes that sort of connected faraway places. And I knew from my father's work that there were signals going around the globe, and he was very good at explaining radio waves and so on. So I was always interested in, I suppose, technology in that primitive way. And dancing. Like I remember just being always running around and flying around. And one of the most exhilarating physical sensations that I had was with my mate. His name was Graham, who dug the hole with me. He and I jumped on the back of a fire truck on the airport, and the fire, and it took off. They didn't know that 2 little kids were holding on to the back of it. We just held on for dear life, and just the sense is still with me of being drawn around with this great force. And I don't know, so movement and just being in a place has always been.
And when did the art come into that, and did the art connect to either of those things which were all...
I don't know, I've always drawn. We had a fireplace in our house. Well, it wasn't our house, that's the point. It was like a housing commission of workers with weatherboards that had been weathered, so they had a kind of nice tooth on them. And I used to get the charcoal out of the fire and just draw all over the house, outside and inside on the bricks. And my parents were completely okay about that, because I knew that, you know, I was from a family of Tom, the artist, and I was the first born, and I was very closely watched. And so any sign of me being an artist was encouraged. They thought it was great that I drew.
I'm struck that you drew out there, you know, as well as in the house. It wasn't something you went and did on a little bit of paper.
No. It was big stuff. And on the concrete too. There's lots of concrete around the airport.
So that meant you would have to draw in a way that took account of the surface you were drawing on, as well as the substance you were drawing on, which had come from the burning of the fire. So very mental start there.
And the other experience that I can relate to yours is that art at school, sadly, was a turn-off for me as well. We had a lovely teacher who very diligently taught us all the periods of history and put everything in boxes, and I just knew this is not my understanding of what art is. And so I was very naughty. I used to go to the library, which was across the way from the art room, and read books, because I've always loved reading, and I wasn't very good at it, but ideas. And I just poke faces at the teacher from over there. I was very naughty, and I'd make sure I did really well in art. So I got a first class honour in art at the end of the year, not having gone to any of the classes, but just because I knew it was my thing. It was my thing.
Yeah, just in the way that the sea and the life under the sea was Bill's thing. And I'm struck in both your stories. The strength of this kind of calling and feeling about homeness, and that could persist beyond an education that was not in any way for you exciting or inspiring.
And I'd find myself in school dreaming about these things I'd seen underwater. You know, thinking, you're just sitting there looking out the window, thinking, imagining myself like being underwater or taking photos and things. So it was a constant daydreaming I had.
An imaginary life.
Very strong. And even earlier, I mentioned when we went on family holidays, I still have again this vivid image, which I've mentioned to Lisa before, looking over the side of the boat and being totally awestruck by what I could see. The water was very clear, I could see all the way down. Wow. And I just stuck with me. I can still capture it in my mind now, how clear that was and the big impression that made on me, wanting to be in there.
It's a very prime and primal place from where you come now in your...
Yeah.
So can I ask you both you haven't gone in the science direction, but clearly having a very visual calling around it,
Yep.
where your connection to art
Mm.
came from and is now,
Mm.
and then I'll ask you about science, Lisa.
Yeah, you know, I think it even the connection to the art was probably came before the science, because even though on the one hand, I loved biology and understanding animals, what I wanted to do with that was depict it and record it and show these amazing lives of marine animals, what they were doing, and the way I wanted to do that was photograph and film.
Yeah,
And so I bought an underwater camera as soon as I could.
yeah.
And I think I took my first photograph with a 35mm camera underwater. And when I said this to my father, that, you know, I really want to be a filmmaker, a photographer, it was totally dismissed it completely. From a very practical purpose, you'll never make a living out of that. And again, that's not a strong memory I have. And so I then went to the science part, because I knew, you know, I still loved biology and I could feel part of it. But that part of me was sidetracked.
Yeah, it was blocked off, but then that
Was.
libido, the energy of that, has
Yeah.
come here and found its way out
Yes.
now.
Yeah. So even though I went my science path and don't regret it, I still managed to bring in the photography and things as much as I could into that. But I think that was even more basic or primal for me than the science part of it. Was that element, the visual, the recording, the capturing, the being totally amazed by the visuals of it.
So it's a wonderful sense of what can keep powering you through your career in all sorts of ways, because with each time of encountering it through the visual, how can I capture this, how can I portray it, how can I see it for myself, and then how can I present it to others?
Yes.
Comes a fresh connection
Yes.
to what you're working with.
Yeah, and for me, the whole visual aspect of, you know, also being underwater, being in the water or being near the ocean is I describe as a very transcendent experience. You just get totally captivated or moved or become totally unaware of your surroundings at that time.